Hey everybody, welcome back to Magic Mind. You are here, my friends, because you, like me, know that magic is an art form with the ability to move and entertain people like no other. But you know that developing this skill requires diligent practice and a detailed understanding of the craft. So my goal with this show and company is to provide you with the community to introduce you to the people and ideas that will help you to develop your magic. With me today, a man who you know as a judge on Wizard War, a FISM winner, the winner of BBC's The Magicians. He's won just about every championship that he's ever entered. He's now entering a new chapter in his life where he's using magic to inspire and wonder in education. Sorry, inspire wonder and education. I want to be very clear, Jason Latimer. I know exactly what you're doing. This new chapter has an emphasis on education. In fact, Jason is about to be a part of the USA Science and Engineering Festival, joining people like Bill Nye and Elon Musk to share their message with millions of people. I am so honored to have on the show Jason Latimer. Thank you for being here.
Well, thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Actually, it's a pleasure to be here. I'm at my place, but thanks for having me over there.
Yeah, well, your place looks awesome. I'm sure it is a pleasure to be over there. Speaking of science and this new chapter, look at where you are. There's nothing more science-y than that background, Jason.
This is my home office.
It's pretty nice.
Thank you. It's kind of a little industrial, but it gets the job done.
Mm-hmm.
But we're really working hard. I have a lot of guys that come to the house and as far as do our VR and our experiment building here. So we use this place as kind of like a little mini bat cave away from the bat cave. So.
Where's the real bat cave?
In Los Angeles, and now we're working on another one in San Diego.
Okay, so instead of speaking in metaphors, let's be very direct. Tell us what you're working on.
Okay, so we started a craziness of a project called Impossible Science to inspire individuals to ask questions in an academic environment. So we use the concept of magic to drive education. And we started with the Fleet Science Center in San Diego, and it's just gone nuclear. We started with the stage show that was supposed to run 8 weeks. It ran a year and a half of 6 shows a weekend. And then we said, wait, time out. We got to find a way to do this, even if I'm not here. So we started creating labs and experiments and festivals to drive home the conversation about how the right question could change everything. And from that, we ended up going on to expanding to other science centers to see if they would like that too. And then now we've gone on to digital series of Impossible Science, and now we're building a new wing to the Fleet Science Center in San Diego to permanently house our Impossible Science program year-round. And then the USA Science and Engineering Festival has really become the most amazing experience of my life to be recognized on this point, that we're going to DC to just go talk about how we're trying to change education.
That's really awesome.
Thank you. Thank you. It's just a little bit of craziness, but it's so exciting that kids are growing up in this program knowing that they could ask a new question, and that new question could lead to a new cure, a new technology. And if they just challenge impossible with the answers that we do have, they might be the one that's wondering about the right question. They genuinely might be the person who's going to ask something that none of us have ever thought of. I really think that's the future, is to inspire kids to say, I might be wondering about a question that no one's asked before. And that's really what I'm trying to do.
So please tell us how you've made, I won't call it a transition because as I understand it, you're still using your knowledge as a magician in this program. But I want to hear about how you made, again, not a transition, but how this new chapter is unrolling, how you went from point A to point B.
Well, I mean, you could start as far back as FISM if you really want to. I won the Grand Prix not because I had a skill set. I think I won the Grand Prix because I asked a question no one had asked before, and I found an answer to it that no one had found before. The clear cups and balls was not that it was ever impossible. It's just no one had found the question in perceptual psychology that would make it work. And so I always tell people I didn't have any pixie dust, and I didn't have a playbook that no one else had heard of. I just knew there had to be something I didn't know. And so I just kept asking questions until I figured it out. And then I applied that to other illusions that I wanted to create. So I wanted to build my lightsaber and bend light, and that was the laser trick. Then so I studied physics. And then I wanted to shape water, so I studied chemistry. And then I wanted to do the rotating stage, and bullet time levitation. And so I studied engineering. And then I started building these props, not because I knew they could exist. It's just I didn't know if they couldn't exist.
Yeah.
And so once you have all these different props in chemistry and physics and math and engineering and psychology, and the list goes on. Every illusion I ever had started becoming a different field of science, just to see if I could. And I was just doing it for my own giggles over here, saying, well, now I want to learn something in biology, and now I want to learn something in mathematics. And so eventually I'm sitting here staring at all these mascots of different science figures, and I go, you know what? I think this is something an educational platform should use. And so I just decided to say, walked into my local science center and said, we need to do this. We need to build an academic platform designed to inspire wonder.
Based on what you were saying about taking knowledge from all these different fields, it sounds like you're the perfect person for this project. I remember, so for people who know this show, yeah, modest Jason over there. I'm telling you, this show is inspired by another show called Impact Theory, where they have all sorts of guests who are some of the world's top performers, and the guy Tom Billy, the host, interviews these guests, and one of the guests held it was doctorates or PhDs in like 7 different fields. And what was interesting is you found that when someone studied different fields, I know, they were all so disconnected though. And what's cool is he had such a unique perspective on all these different places that he was able to pull from his background in chemistry, in physics, for you, magic. And it seems like you've been able to sort of harness all these different fields into one really, really awesome project. Does that sound right, that you've sort of taken knowledge from all these different places?
Definitely being the curator in the Science Center has really made me kind of have to dust off my knowledge in like multiple fields of science. But the approach I'm using to build the experiments is definitely laid out there from magic, which is in invisibility. In one of our courses in invisibility, kids instantly know what invisibility is going to look like, or not look like, actually. By going into the invisibility course or the levitation course or mind control course, they automatically know what the goal of the situation is. So then when I create the experiment, I want the ending to be as impactful as the magic trick. So there's no magic tricks in the experiment. I'm just laying out the experiment so that you end up blowing your mind when you do your own experiment.
Oh, so it's self-working.
Huh? Yeah, exactly. The festival labs and experiments are, okay, I'm going to learn how to make something levitate in levitation. But then I'm going to learn about static electricity, maglev, Bernoulli's principle, Magnus effect, quantum locking. And you learn about all these different ways to make something come off the ground in levitation course. But you also know what levitation is going to look like. So you know when you achieved it.
That's just so cool.
Yeah, so the game plan was, it's like an MMA of science. It's like anything science. It's just like, you walk into the room, I know it sounds impossible, but there are no tricks. It will not be some rubber band and some shoestring doing something. It's going to really be happening. And when I say we're going to read minds, I'm not joking. We're going to use EEG headsets to detect brain waves and brain activities and compare that to one image versus another. And we will detect what you're thinking about. Like, we're not joking around when we say we're going to read minds. Wow. And we're not joking when we say turning something invisible. The thing is, there's no tricks in impossible science. Only my level of impossible science as the curator is I have to stay ahead of these kids. There's a lot of kids. I'm mix and matching magic, but I'm also trying to say, if somebody finds the right question, this may not be a trick. There's no reason why it couldn't be a trick if somebody finds something that we've never thought of before.
So, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
You're finding all these really, really cool, we can call them methods of accomplishing effects. You know, if we're putting it in magic terms, you're reading someone's mind, you're making someone float, you're making them invisible, but it sounds real. So now, do you think that these, again, methods could ever go back to magic, could start to be used in magic in a new way to accomplish new effects?
Absolutely. That's how I got into science in the first place. That's exactly how it happened. I was a 9-year-old staring at a magic book wondering what is possible. And then I found myself staring at a science book wondering the exact same question.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, well, maybe I can use these to build new magic tricks. And that's exactly how this started. And so now what? Uh, 27 years later? 27 years later, I'm still asking the same question. Maybe there's something I could use in the science world, in the magic world, and maybe there's something I use in the magic world, in the science world. And when it came to FISM, it was literally, I had found something in the science world nobody had ever applied in the magic world.
Which is?
Magic.
Sorry. Wait. What?
If my job is to inspire wonder and to get people to ask questions,
yeah.
the last thing I'm going to do is tell you the answer.
Fair enough. Yeah, I can't argue with that.
See, because you could be wondering about a different way to do it. And so your idea of how to do it could be different than my idea of how to do it, and yours could work too. So believing that your question is different than mine will lead to a new concept, like a new cure. Still cures a fever, but maybe it's a totally different method. You get it?
God, yeah, that's so weird.
So, like, I mean, don't forget, there was a time when we used to say, like, after a certain temperature, you should bleed the rest out in a fever. That was a bad idea. That was just genuinely a bad idea. And, but somebody said, well, maybe there's a better idea. And eventually that led to what we have now. But, like, in my living room is tons of bad ideas. I actually collect medical devices of just bad ideas. And
what? Why are we doing the interview here? We should be doing it there.
Well, I can do that.
No. I'm messing with you. I don't want to put you through that.
I've got this one where you used to shock your head in order to regrow your hair. Oh, that sounds like a bad idea. Bad idea. And I have a whole bunch of medical books from like 1700s and 1800s of like, I love reading them because they're just so bad. They're so bad. And I have a lot of old maps because it reminds me, like, a lot of my old maps have Alaska's partially discovered, California is still an island, Australia is just kind of like, we know it's down there, but we don't know the shape. And it's not because Australia was never not fully developed. It was the fact that we didn't know. And it's no clear representation of, we know what we know, and we don't know what we don't. But the trick is reminding ourselves that we don't know everything. That's the real trick. Admitting you don't know everything leads to a lot of new discoveries. Otherwise, you'll say, I know the answer and move on. And that's the problem we have in education right now, is in the age of information, everybody feels like they have the answers. Except the problem with that is we gave the internet those answers.
Yes.
Get it?
Yes.
So if the internet were around when we collectively thought the earth was flat, you'd never be able to search the true shape of earth via any search engine because everyone's uploading the wrong answer.
Wow. Right? Yeah.
Right? And then if you think about it, if we're in a system where the most popular one wins, the most clicks and views and shares comes up first on the search engines, well, there's a problem with that situation because revolutionary ideas don't start off popular. They're going to start on page 10 or even farther. And since nobody clicks on them, we'll end up burying them. And if we're not careful, we might end up burying the next great idea in the age of information because we've created a system where the most popular one wins.
So do we have a solution? Is there a future? Is there a bright future?
Yes. You teach kids how to see beyond our answers. You teach kids how to stand on our shoulders and see over the horizon and remind them that we gave the internet those answers. And you need to show people how to see beyond the answers and teach them how to use education as a tool, not as a course you have to finish, not something you have to finish. You have to use what you know to apply to what we don't. And if we can remind people that even though you can't see over the horizon of the internet, there must be a limit to what we know. There has to be. And we have to convince kids we don't know everything. And that's exactly how Impossible Science got started. Is I gave a TEDx talk at Wall Street about seeing beyond the illusion of knowledge. And that is what I wrote the show for the IMAX film on, is literally saying we must inspire wonder in the age of information. It's an absolute essential.
You know
Otherwise,
what else? You know what
Yeah.
else I love about what you're doing? So
What?
you keep talking about the kids, right? Inspiring the kids.
Ice cream?
No,
Usually
no,
I just go to,
no, no,
if you ever, like, you know what else I need? I'm like, ice cream.
no. Well, if you want to inspire kids, ice cream is one way to do it. No, that's not what I was gonna say. What I do love about what you're doing is what I think you understand where kids live, right? Like, if you want to inspire kids, do it by teaching them invisibility and mind reading and levitation. Right now, it's like if you want to teach a kid science, you're going to make them grow mold in a petri dish. And what you're doing is so much more fun, and I think is inspiring, which is really the mission.
Thank you. I tell a lot of adults that this is the curriculum we wanted as kids.
Yes, yes.
Literally, a kid has just grown up and said, you know what? I really didn't like learning that way. I'm going to teach it this way. And the difference is what we're teaching, even though it's not a focused this first, that second, this third curriculum, and we're working on it because right now we have such a broad age range at the Science Center that are coming in now. We have to figure out a way to teach kids what they should learn in that age range. But on the same thing, if they want to learn more, not a big deal. But we'll get back to that. The point is what I call it goal-oriented education. So if we teach kids what a goal is and that now they can apply anything they want to reach that goal, well, that's the exact same thought process behind finding a new cure. Is the goal is to figure this out, and you get to use anything you want.
So
And yeah, so that's the thought process that we keep trying to nurture. But the flip side to it is if you make a kid hyper curious, just get out of the way. They're going to learn on their own. You don't. If you make a kid believe that they can ask a question that's new, which there's no reason they couldn't. Once they figure that out, just get out of the way. They're going to be fine. They're going to be just fine. Because
man, this is exciting.
yeah, right. Yeah, it's so self motivating. Like that's why I work like 20 hours a day. It's because you got to. You got to. I only got one chance at doing as much as I can in my lifetime, and I'm gonna give it every chance I get. So if I can't sleep, I work. You know, tired, I work. Take a nap every once in a while, and then get up and work again. And,
So I guess this is a sort of a difficult question, but I want to try and draw a parallel to magic. In science, you're talking about these crazy innovations that we make, right? You're going back to these books from the 1700s where we don't know the shape of Australia, and now look at science. Like the nature is to constantly move forward, and it seems like with magic, we're always going back to the classics, and that I don't think that's a bad thing, but it almost seems like they move in opposite directions. I want to ask you what you, in that with magic, we're always going back to the old stuff. Whereas in science, we're always creating new things, like genuinely new things that didn't used to exist. So I want to ask you what you think the future of magic looks like.
It's funny you mentioned that because I've actually been putting some thought into that and on a totally different direction.
Okay.
Might answer your question because I've actually been curious myself. You know, when I grew up in magic, a lot of people used to say there was only like 7 reversible effects in magic. Reversible meaning appearance and disappearance are the same trick. They're just reversed. Levitation, animation, transformation. I could sit down and try to write them all out, but the idea was there were 7 principles of magic. Now, there's a lot of arguments that you can start saying telekinesis and other things of magic and superpowers. But in short, those 7 principles or 20 or whatever you think the number is, that concept of thinking was written many, many years ago, 50, if not even 100. Who knows? But as soon as we started classifying what type of tricks each are, we ran into a problem because then we started using our way of defining magic tricks, started guiding magic tricks.
Oh.
Because people start saying, well, this is a different way to saw a woman in half. Well, the problem with Torn Storm being a category is now in half, in thirds, in sevenths, in ninths, with a box, without a box, with a girl, without a girl, two girls. It's the same trick, but defined by Torn Storm. So the question is our ability to define magic tricks limiting how many magic tricks are coming out next? Does that make sense? We build to what we think it's supposed to be. And if we're only looking at the 7 effects that we think there could be, you're always going to find new generations of the same old effects.
Okay, so I'm gonna throw you an easy one. Hit this one out of the park.
Yeah, I don't know if that really helps you out much, but I think the future of Magic needs to start looking.
It does. It does. So this is your question. How do we start to create new effects, new plots in Magic?
Walk up to a blank sheet of paper and just start drawing whatever you want to draw, and then take a deep breath and say, I may not know the answer of how to make this, but there's got to be an answer. And so then start saying, all right, if it looks like it's chemical based, let's start studying chemistry. If it looks like it's engineering based, let's get some engineers involved. The problem is the dedication on that level is you have to be really committed if you start bringing in a lot of help to do this. I'm very lucky that I am absolutely insane when it comes to just coming up with a bad idea. I just pursue it until I'm tired of pursuing it, and so that's led to really horrific outcomes that were just like the largest. I have in my workshop, I have a 27-foot prop that reminds me always think it through because it doesn't work. It's now shelving. We've actually turned it into shelving.
That's hilarious.
It's just like, why do I keep it? Because I just didn't have a full idea, and I'm like, oh, I'll figure it out by the time it's finished. No, no. But the game plan, I think, is we need to start thinking outside the box and not define magic tricks of what can we do magic with. It's if you had real magical powers, what would you be doing? Like I would hate to see Merlin come down from a mountaintop after throwing lightning bolts and commanding weather to come out and be like, all right, now pick a card. I'd be like, no, you don't want to see that. I mean, I want to see you command something else. I want you to be able to do something spectacular. But I just think I love card tricks, and I love some of the close-up magic that's out there these days. And I think that people are brilliant in creating new ways to just blow my mind. But I would love to see a new genre show up rather than cards and coins and things you can eat. I would love to see a new style of magic come out. But it's a lot of commitment. It's a lot easier to play with magic from a board game than it is to sit down and say, you know what, maybe there's a way to form smoke. Maybe there's a way to control water. Maybe there's a way to, I don't know, turn a glass into a liquid without heat.
So I have an interesting connection, I think. I think you're going to like this. You were talking about just going up to a blank piece of paper and draw whatever you want to draw. And maybe you won't know how you do it. And maybe it'll be, the answer will be something outside of science, right? Chemistry or whatever. I had someone on the show, JC Rodarte, who created a clone with Illusionist. It's, Adam Wilber calls it like the craziest effect in the last 10 years. You duplicate someone's signature with it. So he turned to chemistry. He will tell you that in creating this effect, he had to go not back to old magic books, but old chemistry books and start taking principles in chemistry. And that sounds exactly like what you're talking, where the answers in magic aren't just in magic, right?
Oh, yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, no, totally. No, I mean, I'm trying to equate it to a friend of mine is a professional chef, and he came up with this. It's Jose Andres, and he came up with as a food scientist a way to make spherification of liquids, and he's famous for the liquid olive. And the first thing I did when I saw it was like, how big can they go? And he's like, I don't know. I'm like, no. Like I need to shape something. And he goes, oh no, I don't see how that could ever work. But this is what I did to study. And I was like, okay, all right. So I'm just going into chemistry. But the whole point of it, part of that conversation came from is he was saying he was looking for something outside the box. But if you start everything off with 2 eggs, sugar, and butter, the first 3 steps are always going to be the same. And some outcomes start to look alike, muffins and cakes, and so sometimes the best way to go about it is just to say, I'm not using any of the first 3 steps that anybody would ever use. And in magic, we have a tendency to resort to what we know, rather than just say, deep breath, I don't know everything. I'm going to go study a whole new field of science to go figure this out. Or I'm going to go ask somebody who probably knows more than I do about this thing. And you'll find a lot of people are really interested in just trying to see if they could help you do it. You'd be surprised how much people will light up when they go, I don't know why no one's ever tried that before, you know? Or go away, kid.
Well, no, but what you were saying about that, people light up with that challenge. You were saying the exact same thing with kids. When you set them up in that environment to ask a question and make them believe that they can figure it out, you better stand back because they're excited to figure it out.
Oh, yeah, totally. I mean, I still work with a lot of the professors from UCSB that I went to college at, now mainly because they just know this stuff better than I do. And but the funniest part about it is when I talk about like how we met and I introduced them to other people. One of my favorite conversations is when they say, oh yeah, he came into our office hours one day asking questions that had nothing to do with what we were learning in class. And that was our first sign. This guy's up to something, and maybe we should pay attention to this kid. But then when they started asking, like, why am I trying to figure this thing out with optics? Or why am I trying to figure out this thing in chemistry? They started going, well, that sounds like a pretty clever way to apply that. So you just start peeling back the onion and you start to realize there might be something really cool behind all of this. And I find this pursuit of building a new magic trick, this pursuit of building something I don't understand, has been so beneficial in my life that I wanted to share that opportunity, which is exactly how I got into education. It's just I wanted to share that quest for maybe there's something more.
How do you think you got that tendency? Tendency is the wrong word.
I know exactly how I got the tendency. I saw a magic show and I saw this girl. I was 9 years old and I was scruffy haired, seeing a magic show. I was missing a couple teeth due to a highly overestimated flight plan that I had to flying myself. And I saw a levitation of a woman. I saw a girl fly up in the air, and I remember just like it was like throwing gas on a fire. I like turned to my parents and I'm like, I can't believe you've been hiding this from me this entire time. like, here I am with my cardboard wings. What's wrong with you? Why didn't you tell me to do this? And I just instantly realized I didn't know everything. Instantly realized there's so much more I don't know. And then it just became, okay, what do I not know? And in that childish pursuit of answers, I eventually realized there's no way to know what you don't know. And now that years later, I'm just still laughing about the whole thing. It's like, I still have no idea what I'm doing, and I'm perfectly okay with it. But that's not going to stop me from just trying to get other kids to follow the footsteps I came in. There's no difference between me and anybody else. They could have asked the same questions and be doing the same tricks as I'm doing. I don't have any pixie dust. So.
Yeah, well, you mentioned that with the FISM Act, you weren't using any pixie dust, and I've heard a lot of accusations against you on the Magic forums that you were using pixie dust, which I know you were not, but I just want I want to set the record straight. No pixie dust was used.
Oh, a lot of forums of people asking about pixie dust.
Yes.
I've learned not to pay attention to a lot of things because you'll never make everybody happy. There's 7.4 billion people out there, and honestly, I'm not out there to make anybody happy except for me and make me try to just honestly. I think if I keep looking up because, by the way, I don't know if anybody at home knows, I'm not allowed to see him in this interview, so I'm just throwing him under the bus now. He's got to be facing myself. So yeah. Anyway, no, I literally think the given my skill set and my understanding of the way I approach education, I think I'm better suited for this role in education and better suited to try to inspire wonder on a massive scale in education. And whether it works or it doesn't work, I'm going to do it. And whether people listen to it or don't, I'm still going to do it. And so when you said there's things on a forum, I'm like, oh, okay. like, all right.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. I think that's the right attitude.
I want their names and their addresses as soon as not kidding.
I'll get it to you.
Okay.
I'll send you an itemized email of who you need to track down.
Frank,
Excuse me.
no problem. I'll tell you later.
Yeah, try again in 15 minutes. I'm doing an interview right now. Okay, so what is the next step? And I won't say the next step because I know there's a lot of things going on right now, but what are some of the next steps for you?
Well, the next step for us is to double back and actually try to build up the Impossible Science program even more. We started a year and a half in San Diego, and I was there trapped doing shows every single weekend. The following year and a half, I was allowed to expand it with the festivals and labs, and now we have Discovery Cube Los Angeles, Columbia Memorial Space Center, Discovery Cube Orange County, and the Fleet Science Center in San Diego, all doing Impossible Science festivals, labs, and shows. And I show up as much as I possibly can for the shows because I have to be there for the shows. But the labs and festivals, I'm doing my best to be at all of them. And then right now, the Fleet Science Center and I are building a new wing to the Science Center to dedicate permanently Impossible Science to be around year round when I don't have to be there all the time. And once that happens, I think it'll be a significant change because it'll be the first Science Center in the world dedicated to wonder. Once that wing opens up, I'll be able to shut down another part of the Science Center and work on that wing. So, yeah, it's pretty exciting. I hope you're clapping. I can't. Running away. It's one of the two. Yeah, my game plan is to really focus on that. So when people say like, "Why aren't you putting out magic videos or magic tricks?" I'm like, I'm trying to build a museum right now. So it's and I'm just one guy. I have a very small team of really dedicated guys, and we're working around the clock just to see if we can make something that our kids will be able to go to. I don't have any kids, but I mean, like, the idea is our next generation will have a chance to go to what we're creating right now. And to say we're using magic to drive education on such a scale is just inspiring. And the fact this USA Science and Engineering Festival in Washington, D.C., the fact that they asked me to speak at this event blows my mind because of the names of people that have been involved for the years before. It makes me really feel like we're making a difference. It makes me feel like people are genuinely starting to realize this might have an effect on education. So, yeah, that's my next goal is inspire one more mind, and see if I can go from there. And after that person, I'll go for one more person. So
until how many people?
I don't know, and that's the best part.
Everyone.
Well, I don't know. The best part is I have no idea. I don't. People always ask me all the time, like, when are you gonna stop? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't think there has to be an answer to that because, how do I know the next person's not the person I need to talk to? Mm-hmm. How do I know that kid's not the next Elon, or the next Edison, or Tesla? Better yet, the next Tesla. Like, right. How do we know that kid's not it? So if you have a chance to inspire somebody, you got to go for it. You got to go for it. That's it. And whether it works or not, I'm pretty excited about the fact that this might actually have a chance at working. And the fact that it has a chance just blows my mind. So,
can you tell us a little bit about the DC Festival?
Yeah, the USA Science and Engineering Festival is the largest science festival in the country. 360,000 individuals will
converge. Blows my mind.
Yeah, I know, right? I hope the guy next to me likes it. I'm just kidding. It's the largest science festival in the country with tech firms, educational firms, science centers, all converge in DC. And this year it's April 7th and 8th, all to promote STEM and advancements in STEM education. And for the people at home, that's science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. A lot of people say there should be arts involved, so STEAM. They go, and I totally agree that STEAM is important. I think we need dreamer builders. But right now, I want to make sure that we make it absolutely clear that STEM is not just horses. STEM is a tool. STEM is a tool that you use to achieve something.
STEM is, hang on, I need to make sure. Did you say STEM is not just horses?
Horses in your courses, like horses.
Okay, all right.
they're not just cattle. They're not just equestrian. No. This is no. This not animals. They're not just topics that you learn in class. I try to remind people that there's never been a rule book. And this is a really in-depth conversation, but in short is we are playing a game in which nobody was handed a rule book. Okay, yes. Nobody knows what's possible, what's not, and all we've ever learned is what we've taught ourselves so far. And we ask questions in order to learn more, and then we challenge those questions with other questions just to make sure that's true, and then we use that answer to ask a new question, and we do this in a logical fashion. We call it science. We actually we say these are logical questions that have led to a logical result. That's how we make planes fly, cars drive, whatnot. But you have to remember, education is really not about answers. It's about learning all the questions that have already been asked in this game without a rule book. That's it. Like, that's what we know so far. Australia is there. Alaska is there. Like, we just didn't know it was there. Get it? Like, so it comes from a riddle of like, what was the tallest mountain before Mount Everest? And the answer is Mount Everest. And it's not because we just didn't know. We just didn't know. It was always there. We just didn't know. And so, kids have to learn to say, we're going to apply what we know to challenge what we don't. And once they realize that STEM is a tool, an actual tool, like imagine something in a toolbox, you pull this out and you're like, I'm applying STEM. Then you realize why it's so important that kids realize what STEM is. Because if they just think it's a course and not something you ride, if they think it's just something, if they think it's just a course you take in school, then we're not really pointing out why it's important. But if we show kids and we reinforce to our next generation that this is what we know so far in this game without the rule book, then everything starts making sense. And kids look at the world a lot differently because they go, oh, wait, so nobody really knows if I can do this or I can do that. And the answer is that's true. No, nobody really knows what's possible because there's never been an actual set of books that say this can and can't happen. All we know is what we've learned so far. So, yeah. It's kind of heady. It's kind of heady. It. But it's kids get it when you explain it as a game.
Yeah. Well, Jason, I think one thing that you do really well is just talking to you. You really have this childlike wonder, and it's infectious. It really spreads quickly. I know right now the people watching. Sorry.
Caffeine diet, high sugar diet. I don't even know if that's a diet. I don't think that's
a high sugar diet.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's got to look sciencey back there.
Yeah, we got. Look, these are actually the blueprints of all my props.
I didn't know props were made that way.
Not your props. So yeah, these are everything I've ever created on every illusion I've ever built.
I'm in awe right now. That's insane.
Yeah, and they're all built in 3D modeling too. That's just our templates. We call it the grid, and that wraps the IMAX Dome in San Diego. And where if you want to see, so you see the stage show, and you go, oh, I like the laser trick, and the bottom says physics, and so now you're like, oh, I gotta study physics to understand the laser trick. Get it?
Yeah.
So you go, oh, I like the water trick. Water trick says chemistry. I'm gonna go study chemistry to go study the water trick. And so, yeah, basically, I've turned my entire life's work into wallpaper.
In conclusion. Okay, I like that, Jason. I want to give you a chance, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, but anything that you would like to say that you feel hasn't been covered in this little discussion of ours. Is there anything that you can think of off the top of your head? Again, I don't mean to put you on the spot, and if there's nothing, there's nothing.
Well, honestly, what I could really use is help. I could use as much help as possible. Honestly, we're now at a spot where things have grown so fast that it started off with just me and a couple of guys asking really goofy questions, saying like, "I wonder if we can pull off changing education." And now we're in a spot where it seems to be working, but the only thing stopping us is to spread the word and let people know what we're doing, because every magician has the ability to inspire wonder. Every single one of us
Yes.
have that ability, and if we waste it on just frivolous entertainment, yes, we can make everybody smile, but we could really make a difference if the magic community worked together to just say it's more than just a trick and it's more than just an illusion. It could really, if we apply it into education or just taking a moment to inspire somebody to wonder on an academic level, it could be something significant. Now, whether or not you want to go build your own academic platform or not, you're more than welcome to. But what I'm saying is, if if you hear the words impossible science, or if you want to support us, go to my Facebook or social media or whatnot. And I don't even care if you share my video or just steal the video and put it on your thing. I don't care. I just get the word out there, because I genuinely think for everybody who kind of rolls their eyes when they hear magic, to hear that it's making such a difference in the museum is something significant. And now it's just a matter of getting people aware of what we're doing.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for coming on this show, Jason.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. I'll see you next time.
Peace.